Okay, let's just jump into it. Just a heads up, I did like a big couple of bong hits before this, but yeah, let's just jump into that one.
Can I? Because I've just been recording for the last couple of minutes. Can I include that in the?
Yes, of course. Like I don't hide the fact that I smoke weed, and if I did, I would be doing a terrible job.
Welcome to the show with me, Dan, and my guest back again, Nick Twigger. How you doing, Nick?
Hey man, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. We're having a how you doing off. How are you doing?
Can't complain.
Good, good. How you coping with those bong hits?
Yes.
This is where video would be really, really useful right now. I think it would give more away.
I think you need a pretty high res screen to see my eyes right now. I think they're pixel sized at best.
Wicked. Okay. We'll just carry on from last time. Anyone who's tuned in to previous political compass quiz I've done with Nick will know that we've got up to question number 34 of 63.
Oh
So,
shit!
so there's quite a way to go yet. So we'll see. I think there's maybe one or two people that have listened to this this particular
Wait, is
type
that
of
me and
episode.
you?
Probably, yeah. I know there was one person I know definitely listened to it, and I think the first one got a few more views. The second one got very little views, and I haven't released the third one yet. I was going to release this one and the third one together, but yeah. But we enjoy it, so that's what matters. People don't have to tune in if they don't like it. Cool. Okay. So, question number 35 of the political compass quiz. We're it. By the way, we're in the section that's called "Now look at some of your personal social values." So this one's more about social values. So, question number 35 for me and Nick Twigger is: those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. So a nice light one to start with.
So this is such an annoying one, and here's kind of the main issue we go with. So in theory, this makes sense, but how are you defining those who are able to work? For the longest time, you weren't mental health wasn't really recognized as not being able to work. It was often mocked quite unfairly in the past, I found.
Yeah.
So how are you defining that? And is that fair? Is a big problem with this because apparently we keep fucking it up in the past.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good point. And I think we got caught on this before actually, with the whole question of need and stuff. Um, and I think this sort of ties in really. I think it's sort of about the welfare state and things like that, and who should we be giving money to. I do agree. What you just said. It is an issue with like you say, like who how do we define who's able to? And that is really really difficult. And
Yeah, and
arguably,
what are you gonna say to that person? Like, no, you don't get healthcare right now because I think you can't be asked to work.
yeah,
Like, what the hell?
yeah, and we're seeing there's just so many holes in the UK sort of welfare system. I sort of went through. I don't know if I've actually said this on another episode, but I went through the sort of benefit system. I had a tumor, an adrenal tumor, a few years ago, and to be fair to them, they didn't know that I had an adrenal tumor at the time, but they were aware of the horrendous symptoms I was getting, which meant me rushed into hospital quite a few times. Um, and I was, my veins were like, showing. I was having like my heart rate was like over 200. it was crazy, extreme pain and really random as well. But anyway, so I went on health benefits in this country, and then they do a few months later they did like an assessment, just to check that I was eligible for these, and based on that assessment, bear in mind I knew that they were going to be just asking me certain questions, and based on those questions that they asked me, based on the answers I gave to those particular questions, they were going to make a point system, and then if I didn't make the right amount of points, then they would cut my benefits. And basically, there was like, oh, okay. There was like a physical assessment where I had to put my arms above my head, I had to touch the floor, I had to, all these really basic things. And then there was like just a verbal assessment where they were like, oh, how often do you feel that you can't get out of bed, or these sort of things. And they cut my benefits. They realised from that, and I had an adrenal tumour. Which,
wait, what do you mean they cut your benefits?
well, they said I wasn't. I didn't meet the amount of points that meant that I was eligible to get the benefits, basically.
Despite having an adrenal tumor.
Yeah, and despite me saying at the end, because the whole thing's recorded, I said at the end, I really want to say this. This thing doesn't happen all the time. It's not a constant pain. It's not a constant thing. This is an intermittent, agonizing, horrendous pain where I cannot do anything. I'm completely debilitated. Yeah, it's just thrown out the window. So yeah, there's definitely many holes in the welfare system. I agree. But just if we take it at face value, those who are able to work and refuse to opportunity, let's just say they are able to work, and they refuse the opportunity, should not expect society's support.
I mean, I do mostly agree with this, but at the same time, in the back of my head, I do think, well, we have a surplus of resources at this point in the West. At least in England, or the United Kingdom, we definitely do. Like, there's easily enough to go around, in my opinion. I don't know if housing is the same way, but for food and water, I think it's definitely the case. Oh, and I really don't fucking trust people enough not to fuck this up. Yeah, it's a disagree for me.
It's a disagree.
Yeah, 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 because it's always gonna boil down to one human being deciding whether or not another, just on their own opinion and based on the arguments and debates they've heard, just deciding for that person's fate.
Well, do you not think?
And I don't think it's fair.
Would you not think someone has to do that if you're giving people money?
Well,
Because it's not one person.
I mean, have you heard the idea of universal basic income?
Yeah.
Or the negative income tax, as some people call it?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I feel like a system like that, which from what I've heard by people cleverer than me, it actually seems more financially effective as well.
Mm.
To me, it doesn't make sense why we don't have a system like that, because, when the aliens attack, you're going to want as many people who are doing good and strong and healthy to fucking fight as you can get.
As what, sorry?
Before, like, either the aliens attack or, Skynet starts fucking people to death.
Yeah, yeah.
Just one of the inevitable, at some point shit's going to go down moments. You're going to want as many healthy people as possible.
Sure. Okay, so your main reason for disagreeing with this is because there's other systems that have been put forward, like universal basic income, which would mean you wouldn't have to. Do you know what? That's actually changed my mind on this question, because I was actually going to go with agree, but not strongly agree, because I know that it's very difficult to determine who. But that was in my mind of the current system. So working within the current system that we have, we have to be able to. But you've made a really good point. Actually, universal basic income is another system that we don't have, but actually it would mean you wouldn't have to do these assessments all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sweet. Well, yeah, I disagree as well then.
Hot damn. I don't think I've ever convinced you of anything. And to be honest, I got the feeling you started getting bored there.
Well, I wasn't. Can you hear
Or,
boredom through the microphone?
I don't know. Maybe it's just the paranoia building up in me. What's the next question? Ooh, can I do the next question?
Yeah, you can.
When you are troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. Ugh.
This is much more psychological, isn't it?
Oh yeah, this is man. I didn't expect a question like this.
When you are troubled, it's better not to think about it, but just to keep busy with more cheerful things.
Okay, I've realized this is the whole. Yeah, this is like a strong disagree for me.
Okay.
You can't just run away from problems. Don't get me wrong. Too much pressure from problems will cause too much anxiety, and that can have devastating effects on people. But if you've got real problems, they need to be addressed and move forward with you. You can't just run away. It's good to take breaks sometime, do a physical activity that helps centers your mind, whatever it is for you. But yeah, I don't think it's generally a good idea to run away from problems.
Cool. Yeah, I think I would go with disagree instead of strongly disagree, just because um, sometimes it is important to forget your troubles and focus on more cheerful things. I can say that from experience because at the moment that's what I feel I need to do sometimes. I feel like I'm getting so heavily involved. Well, I guess they're not just my own troubles, it's sort of like loads of troubles in the society and stuff that a lot of my day is too heavy. Um, so I feel like it's quite topical for me in that sense. So I think that's why I'll just disagree as opposed to strongly disagree, because we do sometimes need to forget the bad stuff and just try and cheer up every now and again.
Yeah, I see your argument there for sure.
But yeah, I think we're pretty much on the same page with that one. Cool. Question number 37. First generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country.
Oh, I totally I strongly disagree with this
Mm-hmm.
because I think humans in general have a lot more in common with each other than they'd ever have in like uncommon ground.
Mm.
You've got way more reasons to be friends with someone than not to be friends with someone. The vast majority of people don't just walk around hurting people. And to just have this as a blanket statement is like, nah, that's not possible. Like, man, I work with some guys in India. I have no doubt if they came to England, they wouldn't have an issue generally because they're awesome people. Don't get me wrong. In England, we definitely have some cunts, and might have to run into some assholes here and there. And I can never apologize for those dickheads. Yeah, we're not fans of them either.
I love the three swear words, all different to describe the same type of people.
Oh, I'm so sorry, man. When we first started this, you were like, "Oh, and if you could hold off on the swearing, that'd be great."
It was like the first one, the C bomb, and then there was just two. I love how flavored your use of swear words to describe certain people are. But no, it's fine. It's fine. But yes, you're describing the people that might be like racist or like that. These sort of people.
Yeah, exactly. The people whose views pretty much 99% of the population disagree with.
Yeah. Yep. I think this statement as well, I would strongly disagree with. Despite the Daily Mail and Nigel Farage wanting us to think otherwise. Of course, I do think there is I think we have to recognize it is difficult. Like it's a difficult process of integration. Stuff like with language and people's cultural norms. There's going to be stuff that they're going to have to get used to in society. I think that's just a fact, and um, I think in a country such as ours that is so multicultural, I think it's easy to think. I used to think like this, but it's easy to think that multiculturalism is an easy process, and I don't think it is. It should be easier, and we should make it as easy as possible for people who come to this country to become integrated and to feel welcome. But yeah, I think it is a difficult process, depending on the country that they've come from. But yeah, I think I'd strongly disagree with this. Definitely. Q. Question 38. What's good for the most successful corporations is always ultimately good for all of us.
So I would disagree with this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've seen tons of corporations that have done things that were good for themselves but not good for others. Like loads of examples of companies doing that in the past. Like just god damn, so many. Like the oil industry, Enron. Oh man, like Coke Industries. Holy shit.
What, Coca-Cola?
No. Sorry, KOCH. What? Wait, is it Coke or Koch? I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. I've only ever seen it written down, but yeah, KOCH Industries, I think it is. It's a privately owned oil company.
Oh,
like,
okay.
yeah, you can just do some Googling on it and go like, oh wow, yo, assholes.
Monsanto is another one. Their history yeah, no, I think I'm on the same page with you this one. What's good for is ultimately. So are you disagree or strongly disagree?
I think I'm a strongly disagree because the wording on this is the most successful corporations is always.
Yeah.
So because it's used like such a no, it's always because it's being so concrete. I'm like, well, I totally disagree with this then.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm on the same with that one. Strongly disagree. Cool. Question number 39. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. So no broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding.
This is a tricky one. The big problem here is if the media starts getting funding from the government, which is in itself its own entity, can start influencing what the media can do. But we need the media to hold these people responsible and accountable.
I guess it depends whether we're taking this as government funding or public funding.
Right, but if it's public funding, it has to go through the government.
Nope, because the BBC isn't government funded, but it is public funded.
Wait, no, it's customer funded.
No, I think it's called public funding.
I thought it only got money from the TV license.
Yeah, and the TV
Right.
licenses it's not it doesn't work on the basis of any other TV. So it gets its funding from the public buying the TV license. So I'm pretty sure
That's the same as a customer. That's not, it's the same as a customer, buying a DVD or a Netflix subscription. It's not like, hey, everyone has to pay for this.
Sure, but I think if you look on any BBC, if you look up BBC funding, I think the terminology used is public funding.
I don't give a shit if they've lied about it. It's not fucking public funding. No matter how you write it down, this is not.
Well,
money
not now, but back in the
taxation.
day, you had to get a TV license to get all of the channels.
So that was a shit deal, considering you just get Netflix now for like $6.99, and that's fucking everything.
So you're taking this as government because I think we should make sure we're interpreting the same before we answer.
Is there a difference between public funding and government funding? Because surely all public funds go through the government first in like taxation and whatnot. So
that squeak of your chair was very loud.
oh shit, sorry.
That's all right. All right. Well, for the sake of this, I'm happy to say I'm happy to change the wording and say it's government funding. But yeah, honestly, I would look up BBC. The wording they use is public funding.
Then they're lying about that because it's not public funding. Right, but that means yeah, Apple pays for all their goods with public funding. It's the exact same concept. They're still selling a product or a service.
Sure, I think
it's not forced upon anyone.
Maybe it's outdated terminology, but I think it was because you to have any of the channels you had to get a TV license. But now, obviously, you don't. If you didn't want to watch the BBC, that's all you actually really need a TV license for. Actually, no. If you're going to get any other channels, really, apart from streaming it, you have to get a TV license because you can't get like all the Freeview channels without the BBC.
Wait. So because there's no way to block it, you get charged.
There is ways to block it now.
Okay, I'm going to throw it out there. The BBC, I think, is actually quite shit from a media standpoint anyway. I think they produce generally pretty poor stuff, at least in the last 10 years. Man, you compare that to like Netflix, to Amazon, to HBO. Get the fuck out of here, BBC.
It's funny.
So yeah, I don't want my public funding to go. I don't want my taxes going towards a shitty service.
It's not your taxes, but so I mean, this might be somewhere because we've obviously just agreed on everything so far. So this might be an interesting area to get into because I love the BBC. I love their content.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, so this would be cool. So, what is it about the BBC? Why do you rate Netflix and not the BBC?
Well, first of all, in terms of like return on investment, like in terms of how much you get bang for buck, just way in Netflix and Amazon Prime's favor, way ahead. Also, way ahead in terms of the service they provide. Well, Amazon Prime's app's a little bit shit, but Netflix app is like stunning in terms of its UI and UX. It's really well put together.
Well, I think what people forget is actually BBC does a lot more than just so. Netflix and Amazon Prime, they don't provide a 24-hour news service. The amount of content they produce that is Amazon funded and Netflix funded specifically is far less than the BBC because the BBC have constantly running channels, and TV shows. So even if you were to, obviously you can't judge total from their time since being alive because BBC's been a thing since I think the 1950s. But I mean, if you were to judge from now until next year, the amount of content funded by the BBC or funded by Netflix, BBC would be there's a lot more content. So in terms of quantity of content, also scope of content. So like I say, you've got news. You've also got entertainment stuff. You've also got online.
Right, but there's a ton of other things that probably do it the same, right? Like Sky News has the same service. It's always on YouTube. You can get it anytime. You can get Sky News like a 24-hour news cycle on YouTube for free at any point. You can go on it right now.
Yeah, and you can with the BBC as well.
Right. So why do I need? Wait, what? So then why would I need this to pay the subscription fee for them for the TV license?
So
if I can...
the way it is now is what you get for a TV license is the BBC plus you're able to then get like Freeview or any other package. Even with Sky, if you get Sky TV, you have to then get a license fee because you can't get a Sky. I think anyway. I think you can't get a Sky TV package without getting a license fee because you can't.
Right. Hold on. But just to backtrack slightly, just the fact that you use like, oh, well, the BBC has a news service, right, but you don't need the TV license for that, so that can't be part of your argument.
No, but sorry, I was just addressing the fact that you were comparing it to Netflix and Amazon Prime, and I was saying there's a lot more scope with.
Well, I believe as a consumer looking at the two, I wholly believe that Netflix and Amazon Prime, I just are blowing like the BBC and, to be honest, broadcast television in general out of the water, like by a country mile.
But I'm wondering why do you think that, like specifically, because what I've said is BBC produces more content.
It doesn't produce more content than Netflix. Like Netflix creates a shitload of content.
No, they definitely fund more content. Definitely, BBC definitely fund more content. BBC as a TV channel. They also fund films. They also.
Dude, there's no way that's true. Like, I'm down to give it a quick Google right now, but like Netflix pump out an ungodly amount of content, films as well, all the time with big movie stars like Adam Sandler for some reason.
Yeah, but BBC is 24-hour, so they've got news channel. So that's a news channel.
Dude, if we're just talking raw money here, Netflix by a mile.
Wait. Let's just do one thing at a time. You said you think that Netflix produced more content than the BBC. I categorically disagree. So BBC has got multiple channels. So they've got a news channel. They've got radio. So they've got radio content. They've also got BBC One, which if you watch BBC One, they'll have a new program on usually every hour, sometimes every half an hour. So all of those programs add up. BBC Two, BBC Three, BBC Four. This is a humongous amount of content, and that's not even to go into all the educational stuff they do online. So there's BBC Bite Size, which is a lot of educational content for kids on the web. So that you're I'm willing to say this without Googling it. BBC produce way more content than Netflix. And if you can find anything online that disproves that, then fair enough. But BBC produce a hell of a lot of content, just in the things that I've mentioned.
Okay, maybe in terms of sheer quantity and volume, because they do these like an ungodly amount of radio shows, and radio shows are much easier to produce, and Netflix don't do
TV
that.
Channels.
No, dude, Netflix pumps out so many shows, so many films.
Just repeating that doesn't mean anything. Like the point is,
BBC. All right, let's get some numbers on.
BBC have iPlayer, so that's the online thing which has a backlog of things. Then on BBC One, do you know how many programs are produced every day on BBC One or go out to the audience?
A lot. I'm going to assume around 20.
It will be more than that, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, let's just say about 20. And then and that's every day. And let's, for the sake of both of these, let's just say before COVID as well, because all obviously content has been halted. BBC Two, then let's just say another 20. BBC Three, another 20. And that's every day. That's every single day.
Right. So just some quick facts on Netflix. This is as of 2014, so it's way out. No, yeah, 2014, so it's way out of date. But Netflix in 2014 had 6,494 movies, 1,609 TV shows.
Yeah. How many of them do they produce?
I mean, it's not really the point here.
Yeah, it is, because the BBC shows films. You get to Christmas time, they're showing loads of Christmas films.
Right, but these are still services like you're paying to the consumer.
Yeah, but I don't think we can't make a fair comparison, because then you've got to take all the BBC's content that they didn't produce into account, which then adds onto the BBC total. Netflix.
Dude, you're comparing, like, in terms of scale here, like Netflix is a platform, whereas the BBC is a couple of channels.
No, that's why you're wrong. I've just said
No, no, because
there's
dude, there's
you're not
how
listening to
much?
what you're not you're
Okay,
not.
how can you find out how much funding, like, or how much money they take back? Because in terms of sheer numbers, I think Netflix got BBC beat.
Okay, but that's why I'm focusing on one thing at a time, because if you switch to another aspect to this when we haven't settled one of the aspects, then
But
that's
we
like a
haven't settled that
diversion.
you've got more.
More
Okay,
content.
if we remove radio,
BBC produce. Okay, so we're just removing a whole section of the BBC, just so
right?
that your
Because you
argument
don't
is more
have no,
valid.
because this whole thing pertained to the TV license. You can get the radio without the TV license. So what's the point in the TV license?
Okay,
If
that's fair enough. Okay, that's fair enough. Okay, well, so we'll take the radio out. But my point is, with the funding that BBC get,
yeah,
they
you've got to
also
take the
do.
news out as well. Keep in mind because that's free on YouTube.
Um, right, I think we're getting into murky water because there are films on Netflix that are also on Amazon Prime. So you can't say that this is content produced by Netflix, and there's films that are on Netflix that have been on BBC.
Well,
So
that's a very valid point. Yeah, Netflix has a shitload of the BBC's good stuff on it, actually.
well, exactly. So we can't minus the stuff that you're getting for your money,
No,
unless we
man,
minus.
I think if you compare, I don't, do you know how much a TV license is a year?
Right. Okay. So, but what you're doing again is now you're going to another aspect to this. You're going to now how much it costs and how much you get bang for
Well,
buck.
right, because that's part of the return on what you're paying. That's a whole portion of it,
Okay, but you still
and
haven't
then what
accepted.
you're
You still haven't
getting for that.
accepted. Your first point was wrong that the BBC produces less content than Netflix. Do you accept that's
Okay,
wrong?
I'll admit that. I'll admit that's incorrect because
Okay.
of yeah the Sky News. I was just talking about purely what pertained to the political compass stuff,
Right.
and because I was disagreeing with it so much was entirely because like well it's not relevant because you don't need a TV license for that.
Right. Right. Well, forgetting the political compass for now, because I think this is an interesting area of disagreement. Because this is just more around trying to get what you don't like about the BBC or what you,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, that's how we started.
yeah. And you said that BBC produce less content than Netflix. Do you accept that that's
Okay, so
false?
yeah that's objectively false. I think that's fair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's go on to bang for buck. So the BBC, off the top of my head, I think it's 160. It might. Let's just say 180 for sake of argument. Oh, yeah, actually, yeah. Do you want to do a quick Google?
Well, I'm gonna just check on Netflix subscriptions because I pay more because I have like a shitload of users on mine.
So, wait, what do you mean? Oh, I see what
So
you mean. I see what you mean. Well, let's just do a standard TV license, and then let's do a standard Netflix. I think, because then that's a fair comparison. Because I
yeah,
don't think it's fair
yeah,
for you to add to your costs of Netflix the amount more you have to pay for other people. So standard Netflix, do you know how much that is just for one person?
I'm googling it now. I have a feeling it'll be around like 7.99.
Okay, so let's say £8, and then let's just say
Actually, no, eight nine. Yeah, 8.99.
okay, so £9, and then let's say 180 per year. So 9 times 12 is what's
90, 108.
108? Yeah.
Is
So
that wait? Is that true?
yeah,
Oh, good.
or we're both idiots.
I
So
mean, neither of us are good at math. Let's
so
face it.
so let's say 108 for Netflix for the year. You could probably get less actually. There's probably an annual option that costs less. So
Let's just go with that because that's only two accounts, whereas like a BBC one is for the whole household.
sure. Okay. So let's just say 100. Well, that's another good point. But yeah, to be fair, you could have the same with Netflix because the whole household could be watching on the same account. So let's just say 100 for Netflix, so it's clean. 180 for the BBC.
Yeah,
Okay.
and keep in mind what you're paying for is actually only the broadcast television to your TV. The radio, if the news
No, no,
is
no.
on,
You have to. If you're going to watch iPlayer on your tablet or whatever, you have to have a TV license.
So their stuff, it's only on their radio stuff. It's only on iPlayer. You can be in the car listening to the radio, or
No. The radio stuff, I don't know exactly, but people, yeah, you don't. Let's just say, for argument's sake, you don't have to have a TV license to listen to the radio, but the online content iPlayer, which you can stream just like you can Netflix, on your smart TV or your tablet or whatever, you have to have a TV license to stream. In theory, you're supposed to have a TV license to stream any iPlayer content.
yeah. And to be honest, like I think places have gone really good at cracking down on like people like skirting that and getting in for free. So I would hope if you are using the BBC content, you are paying for it fairly, because it's a bit of a dick move if you don't. But okay, so for these two different amounts, if we just remove the radio stuff,
Yeah, fair enough.
is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
We just remove the radio stuff. What Netflix is giving you for entertainment is all of this huge amounts, thousands and thousands of movies, of TV shows, all the stuff, which is some really big. Like, Netflix has the entirety of Friends on it that you can just watch whenever you want. I actually don't like Friends, but apparently that's a big deal for other people.
Yeah. Just let's get to the core of what you don't like about the BBC, because it's obviously a lot of it is down because the numbers. I mean, we can go into the numbers if you want, but I think you seem to have a more emotional reaction to.
So if I move on to like the quality of what they make compared to others. Man, when I was younger, I watched a lot of the BBC stuff, especially on BBC Three. Man, like I loved The Mighty Boosh. It's now been taken down on Netflix for some reason, but I love The Mighty Boosh, and that was BBC funded, and that was an amazing TV show. I'm not saying the BBC hasn't made amazing TV shows; it has.
Yeah.
But I think nowadays, in the modern era, if we say the last 5 to 10 years, last 10 years, what they've put out. The amount of content on their services that they've put out compared to both the quality and quantity of content on other services like Netflix and Amazon, and also the amazing convenience. Well, to be fair, no, BBC now also offers that convenience, so you can remove that advantage there. But I think if you look at those, and some of this is coming from my subjective opinion that, hey, I got really bored with the BBC content after a while. Shows like Mock the Week, which I used to love, just it became dull. Honestly, I'm one of those assholes that I felt like once Frankie Boyle left, the show just became a little tame, and I didn't enjoy it anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
But
what?
go on.
Let's. I mean, give a good example, or examples, because these are very broad statements. I know you have to make broad statements, but like you're making out as if Netflix produced the creme de la creme of content.
Well, they definitely have a lot of shit as well. That their approach is definitely throw a bunch of shit at the wall and see what sticks.
Okay. When you get something like Blue Planet or any of the David Attenborough stuff, I think you'd be hard pressed to find anyone who'd agree with you that that's not good content and that's not high quality content.
Some of the best content ever made, without a doubt.
Right. So that's BBC. So when
but I wasn't saying that the BBC had. I just said that the BBC has made some amazing content, which I've been a big fan of.
Yeah.
But I really feel like in the last, when's the last time I watched anything on the BBC? Uni, maybe? 5, 6 years ago? 5 years ago is probably when I went off to BBC and I was like, ugh, this is just boring content now. It's the same crap. It's dull.
Yeah. Well, they're still producing David Attenborough shows.
Maybe it's also fair to say that, I haven't watched the BBC in 6 years, and maybe it's changed in these. Well, it's definitely changed in 6 years, right? Maybe it's gotten better, and I could be ignorant of all of that. I mean, to be fair, I remember my housemate saying, "Oh, what was the show?" She was watching Killing Eve, which I think the BBC makes, and she was rating it very highly. But for me, I really went off the BBC as a whole. The content just got drab and boring.
Okay, fair enough. I think my point of view with the BBC, and most of this is going to be down to taste, I think, is I highly value. So from the news point of view, I highly value the BBC as a news outlet because I think it's a world leading, not the best in the
Oh,
world.
I'm about to disagree with you
No, that's
so
cool. That's cool.
much.
But a big part of what the BBC tries to do, and I know you can never be completely impartial, but at least it's one of their values that they strive for, is impartiality. And when you have places like the TV shows in America, like if you can name one TV show, sorry, any news channel in the world, or let's just say America, that is as actively impartial as the BBC is, then fair enough. But
There are YouTubers I could who are in America who do run like news services that get millions of views a day.
so YouTubers that are more impartial
Yeah,
and give daily news.
yeah. So there's a channel called the Phil DeFranco Show. He does news. I think it's only Monday to Friday. He does them with maybe some other stuff on the weekend. But yeah, but he does a show with the news, and he covers like the main things from all around the world and stuff going on the internet and whatnot.
Right? How often does he put out content?
It's once a day, it's Monday to Friday, so it's like 5 times. Yeah, yeah. So it'd be 5 times a week, and then I don't think there's news on the weekends. I think it's just some other stuff he does.
Okay. Um, and how long are the videos? Is it like it's not like a rolling thing, is it?
They're not really long videos. They're very short, concise, and to the point, which is why I really like them. And
How
to be honest, I
how
don't
long
think
roughly?
it's between 10 and 20 minutes. I think.
Right. Well, I can't comment on the impartiality of it. Does it have any regulating boards on this YouTube channel?
No, this is just an independent guy who's got his name on it,
Right.
and
Well,
he's been called out in the past for stuff that he got incorrect, and he's issued apologies and gone, yeah, this was my bad. And he does that really regularly, where they make sure, like, he has a whole team of people, and it's his name like on display. Like, well, fuck if we're lying. So I would actually encourage anyone to give that a gander. I'm really
I'll,
impressed by
I'll
what that guy's accomplished.
yeah, I'll check it out. But without seeing it, I can't know and have an opinion. But would you agree that that is a lot more open to bias than something like the BBC?
No.
Why not?
Well, for starters, I've seen a couple of things from the BBC that definitely aren't unbiased.
No, no, no.
In
But then
fact,
we could play that game, and then I could look at a clip, and I could say, "Oh, this was very unbiased of this guy." I'm asking. The question I'm
yeah,
asking is, do you feel that this YouTube channel, without any regulation and a regulatory body looking over it, or just in general,
no, I still don't. And the reason I don't is because I feel like that guy's holding himself accountable to stuff. Whereas the BBC, I
so you're
see a shitload of accusations from my friends, both like on the left mainly, who and I don't know if there's any legitimacy to their
so
arguments.
you're placing your trust on one person's um,
I trust people. I don't trust faceless corporations that aren't really held accountable.
it's not a faceless corporation
It is.
itself.
Who's the head of the BBC?
I don't know, but you could easily find
But
it out.
it's faceless then.
Well, it's not faceless. You know, I know who the head of Apple is just because he's in the news more. But
And they probably have a more important job in society.
well, okay, you're making loads of different points now.
I am, and that was like, yeah, I was just joking around
Sure,
more
sure.
there.
But I think I would absolutely categorically disagree that one guy on YouTube, no matter who it was, like I really like.
I mean, he has a whole team of people behind him. He has like
Sure,
a
but
decent, he has a
okay,
decent sized
a team
audience.
of people, like whatever it is, and the audience is exactly what the BBC have got. They have a team of people. They have an audience that will call them out for anything they don't like. You know, there was the whole Naga Manchetti thing. So there's a BBC presenter who gave her opinion on Donald Trump. She's a regular BBC breakfast presenter, and she gave her an opinion on Donald Trump and what he was saying. It was when he was saying like, "Oh, these people should go back to where they came from," and he was referring to women of color in the Democratic Party. But anyway, she gave an opinion on it, and there was a big backlash. So the BBC basically was reviewing it. I can't remember what exactly they did, but they were basically saying that she crossed the line, and Ofcom said she crossed the line, and she's supposed to be impartial. And then there was this big backlash, and there were some people who were like, you shouldn't be you shouldn't be attacking Naga Manchetti, and she's a person of color as well. So they were saying, this is racism. And then there are people on the other side saying like, no, she's supposed to be impartial. So there was all of that viewer dialogue, which you would get in the YouTube channel as well. But you have a regulatory body, so Ofcom, which isn't perfect. No organization is, but they are trying to monitor and that's across the board of what the show is trying to do and what the impartiality needs to be. So I without seeing this YouTube channel, I can't say whether it is more impartial than the BBC, but I can say that it's a lot more open to be corrupted or be impartial because it doesn't have the same regulations that the BBC has.
So to clarify something, this service, Ofcom, where do they get their money from?
I'm not 100% sure. I don't actually know.
And there lies the problem here, because that probably comes from the government in all likelihood, which is public funding.
I don't.
And if that is the case, then that means the government is regulating the BBC, which is totally what I'm against with this.
Right. I don't know if Ofcom is funded by the government, because it could be funded by the TV channels themselves. It might be a certain amount they have to pay every year, like ITV and all these sort of British channels.
Well, that's also a problem then. How impartial can they be?
Right.
If they're being funded by the people who they have to criticize.
Sure.
And investigate.
Right, but so I don't understand what the BBC has that makes it more likely to be impartial that the YouTube channel doesn't have. Because the YouTube channel, you don't know who's funding it. Like, anyone could be funding it. There could be people.
Well, here's the thing. I know exactly how the YouTube channel is funded, though, because that guy, and he explains it all on his show that he does, that he makes money mainly from merchandise. He gets a lot of views, builds up a brand, and then makes a fair amount of money on the merchandise and the business deals he does. So, and I'm sure you're thinking, oh, well, could he not be corrupted by them? It's like, well, he's openly, he's just selling his own stuff, really. That's how he's making his money.
Sure, but you are...
He has what incentive does he have to fuck around with the truth?
Do you not feel like we need to have bodies, like independent bodies, to set up, to regulate anything?
Not when they're massive failures, no.
What do you mean when they're massive failures?
Because I don't believe that BBC is anywhere near what you're claiming it is. I have seen just on their website alone tons of articles that do this thing that the UK do in general, which I despise, but they word things and they skew them to try and provoke anger and outrage. And I really fucking think it's disgusting the way they do that. Yeah, totally. I'm not... I could not disagree with you more here, fella.
Okay.
This, I guess because the guy who runs this whole show, it is him. I guess he sold me on him, and I trust him. Whereas I guess the BBC brand didn't encourage me to trust them.
Do you not think that's more of a problem that you have with trusting bigger organizations than the individual people?
This definitely isn't just a BBC issue here, that's for sure. There's a lot of the vast majority of formal news organizations in this country. Actually, I'm very not a fan of.
Is there any big organization at all that you trust more or trust more than others?
Any organization at all?
Yeah.
Any big, supermassive companies?
Or not just companies, organization.
Could
be a charity, could be a company, could be...
There's definitely a couple of charities, a couple of medical charities as well for research and stuff that I've vetted in the past and that I trust.
Right. Can you name any?
Macmillan Cancer Relief is definitely one.
Okay. And do you know how do you? So the same stuff you were saying about the BBC about it being regulated and stuff. Can you not say the same about Macmillan? With having, where does the money come from? What's the interest of these people? That, because you have an independent body like Ofcom, which in theory, like any independent body, when they're trying to investigate something, like when there's something in politics or in government where there's something going wrong, they have to get an independent body to come in. And the same with Macmillan. So there was a problem in Macmillan. You need to have an independent body to assess where there's any corruption and things like that. So why? So can't the exact same arguments be said for like Macmillan?
I do see what you're saying here. I guess I find with big companies in general, the rule is big.
Oh, I just cut out. Go again.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. So I guess when it comes to like major companies, I'm generally not trusting. That's entirely because in general, when you've got more people, you're gonna get a subset of that which are pretty bad people. And the problem is, if that group is at the top, that's gonna go and filter downwards into everyone else. Like, man, for those of you who don't know, I'm an associate producer at Ubisoft Reflections, and for anyone who's not in the gaming world, I don't know if this is average knowledge or anything, but recently in the gaming world, Ubisoft, some executives at Ubisoft got heavily criticized. Well, not criticized. There were a lot of accusations their way for harassment and some quite disgusting things indeed, which is like in the gaming world is massive. And it's honestly, working in a big company, it makes me very distrusting of other big companies, because I work at this company. I like 5 years ago when it all went down with films in the film industry. I remember thinking, that's never going to happen in games. It's just a bunch of nerds making games, which it is. But it's also a business at the top, and the people at the top aren't making games. They're building a business. They're not in edited. They're not in a game engine doing anything. And I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that what they do isn't valuable either. I actually believe that the leaders of Ubisoft do a very good job. Although I definitely think they put some executives in place who they really fucking shouldn't have. And I definitely think things should have been investigated better internally based on some reports I've read online. So yeah, I'm super distrusting of big companies. I do generally think it's the exception to the rule that you get a big company that is generally actually a very good dealing company, does a lot of charity work, that kind of thing, and valuably puts back in society and is fair to its consumer base. I think you get a couple of like even companies that I do think offer great services like Amazon. I don't think that's actually a good company just because it's worth a lot of money. I don't think it's a good company because it treats its warehouse staff like shit, which is horrible.
Right. Were you saying that you think if they do something charitable, then you're more likely to trust them or something?
I definitely think I trust companies more if they put back into society a little more, because I think a lot of big companies are at a point where they have pretty solid, consistent revenue flows. I think they have way more than they need, and I think it's actually going to benefit them in the long run if they give a bit more back to society.
Sure. I mean, there's I know at least one charitable arm of the BBC, for example, called Media Action.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think, I was trying to get down to what one of the key things are. And I think it seems for you, like you said, it's the size of the BBC, which creates skepticism, which I completely agree with. When something gets bigger, we should be a lot more skeptical.
To be clear, that's just the criticism of its news. Like, with its media, that's totally different. That's fiction. You don't need to be...
Sure, yeah. Doctor Who doesn't need to to fight someone on the left and the right.
Man, Doctor Who, that's another show that I really enjoyed, and I just thought got dull.
Sure, okay. All right. Well, what I would say, I'll just finish on this with the BBC because I completely respect your point of view. I was just trying to get to the nub of understanding what you had an issue with the BBC about. Um, I would say for a big organisation, like any big organisation, like the NHS is a huge organisation, or any of these huge organisations. Um, I think BBC do very very well to try to enforce their values and let's just focus on the news for now. But also stuff like diversity and inclusivity is also a huge value of theirs that goes across not just news but all of their output. um, I think with the news they do stuff like they are extremely impartial. I can't think of another huge news organization that reach as impartially as a news as the BBC attempt to do. Also, they are monitored by Ofcom, and there's been many recent examples of them being called up on it. There is part of the BBC News where they get like the managing director or sort of the director of output or something like that in the studio, and a journalist like grills them, and they have members of the public like basically calling in to grill them on news items that they thought
Oh,
were
that's really good.
so there I feel, and again, it is my bias, I guess, but from what I've seen, and I consume a lot of BBC news, um, and I consume a lot of news in general, they try extremely hard to be as impartial as possible. And the main reason I love the BBC is because of that, is because that impartiality with the news, which I just can't find anywhere else. There's other great news channels. I really like Al Jazeera, but I think Al Jazeera is more left wing. But then there's other like written news, like newspapers and stuff, which are
I'll
also
definitely agree. When it comes to like mass scale media outlets like the BBC, the BBC's, I still think it's got a way to go to being impartial, but I would definitely agree it's more impartial than probably any other large scale one. I think that's definitely, there's a lot of truth to that.
cool. All right, well, yeah, that's literally taken the whole time, but I'm happy to keep going if you are.
Should we go? We've got, what time is it? Should we do like 15 more minutes?
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's cool. Sweet. All right. Well, what's good for the no broadcasting institution? Okay. Well, let's just leave that question
Wait,
because
what was our answers to this?
we didn't have answers. No
No
broadcasting
broadcast.
institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. If this is government funding, then I agree. But if it's not government funding, then I disagree.
Do you think it's government funding or not? Like,
I don't know.
for me, I don't understand how it couldn't be, but I'm making a lot of assumptions about shit I don't actually know.
As am I. Okay, well, let's just go with government funding then. Let's just say it's saying government funding.
So it's a soft agree.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I would
Like,
say
the problem is, I believe a system like this could maybe work, but we're just so far away from it.
yeah, I would say a soft agree as well, but if it's government, but only, but I think it would be possible, or maybe I softly disagree. I think if it's funded by the government, I think there also needs to be other things in place to ensure that it is impartial as possible. Like it needs to be filtered
Like an
down.
intermediary.
Yeah, exactly. Like civil servants are funded by the government, but their job is supposed to be completely impartial. And the NHS nurse that treats you, I'm hoping they're not going to take your political affiliations into account whether they treat you or not. So yeah, okay, cool. So this is the next section now. So this is and how you see the wider society. So this question is: our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism.
I'm here. That's just a layered question.
um, I
I
don't
think I would strongly agree with this.
really. Okay, I was gonna disagree, but
I mean, I mean, it seems crazy how easy it is for anyone to listen to you now, let alone the government alone. But it does seem like the Patriot Act, for example, in America, that I can't remember the details, but it pretty much allows you people to do stuff, like to bust into people's houses if necessary without a judge's warrant, which I do see a case for. But at the same time, I also see these systems being exploited, which man is really the main problem I have with most of these.
what do you mean that it's open to exploitation and corruption?
Yeah, well, yeah, totally. There's that, and then there's the other layer that I don't like that the government can probably just fucking listen to me whenever, because it seems like that's what the US government could do.
Oh, okay, what? Listen to UK citizens.
Oh no, 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 sorry, not UTK citizens to their own. Well, I assume just to their own citizens.
Well, should we keep it in this country just to keep it simple? Because we neither of us live in America.
That's true, yeah. Well, I mean, here I don't think. Yeah, I don't really think my civil liberties are being curbed in the name of counterterrorism at all.
No, I would disagree.
Yeah,
Um,
if it's in this country, um, yeah, then it's a definite disagree because yeah, I just don't. Yeah, I mean, there's been no whistleblowers on the UK government. No one's come forward to tell us this. I mean, in theory, they could be doing it in secret. That's always possible, but I mean, at this point, I don't know. It's just not something I worry about. Yeah, I might go as far as to strongly disagree.
yeah, yeah, I would go disagree just 'cause I don't know enough about it. But yeah, I
Yeah,
think that
yeah,
civil
maybe you're right.
liberties are going to be curbed when you have a police force or an intelligence service. Like, it doesn't matter whether it's counterterrorism or it's trying to stop county lines or it's trying to stop drug smuggling or anything. There's always going to be a need for surveillance to check out people who might actually be innocent and all that sort of stuff. It doesn't really
Yeah,
matter what it is that they're trying to tackle.
I actually personally believe that the best system is one that you have like somehow constant vision on all exterior areas, but you never go into interior areas because
Okay.
because like the reason behind that being that you don't no one can like that's you can exploit that, but to exploit that is like man you need a shitload of well I like to process all that information and do something nefarious with it. That's like you need an army of people to try and get through that workload.
Sure. Yeah. And I guess
So
any system you come up with, we have to assume that it can't be penetrated because there's any system we come up with is can be
I mean,
exploited.
yeah, I mean, all systems will have their issues. I just, for me, like the cost is well worth the gain.
Cool. Of what?
Like in terms of what the average person is losing, by somehow surveilling all exterior areas. I don't know. I mean, it's also a requirement to make the laws fair and not silly during that time. Like, what country is it? Is it Singapore that? How do they kill drug dealers?
Yeah, that it's if you bring drugs into the country, I think it's a death sentence.
Yeah, which is just like, whoa, like, whoa, really?
Yeah, your bong hits
So
wouldn't go
someone's got a
down too
truck
well.
full of weed, and that's it. Well, you're getting beheaded now, motherfucker.
Well, not even a truck full. If you just got like a bag of it, like
Oh my god,
it's
that's just so archaic to
it
me.
really scared me because I went to Singapore a few years ago and I was so scared. Like there was people telling me like just double check your bags, make sure no one's put it because if like some person like I don't know who actually does this, but well I guess it's people that then take it off you the other side or whatever. But if someone just put a baggie in my bag and I got caught with it, I'm gonna be decapitated or something. You know, that's
Oh
just
fuck
mad.
yeah! Oh my
I
god!
was so scared. um,
Did you do like a definitely no weed check on you?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And luckily, I hadn't smoked much weed on my travels either. But I did
But you
think
had a little,
I had a
right? You had
little,
a
yeah,
little.
yeah. But it was quite a long time before I went to Singapore. So, but yeah, I was still like, oh my god, from those like 9 months ago or whatever, there could be some like speck of it on my bag, or yeah, I was well scared. Um, but yeah, cool. All right, so our civil liberties. I think we both disagree with that, don't we?
Yeah,
In this country.
yeah, definitely hit. Oh, I know what I'm going to go back, listen to what Edward Snowden did, and he's going to be like, and the UK are doing this as well.
Yeah.
I thought it only pertained to the US, but yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, let's go to next question. A significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. I strongly agree with that. I strongly agree. I don't.
I mean, it's objectively true, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess, you know, Hitler was very efficient.
Yeah.
Yup.
And the
That's
Chinese Communist Party are.
well, yeah, yeah. The North Koreans also seem super efficient. Yup, yup, yup. I will agree that there is a advantage to one-party states.
A significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that
Wait, a
delay.
significant advantage? Ooh, that's enough for me to go strong disagree.
So you don't think it's well? Let's just be clear. I think we both already took this for granted anyway, but just so our listeners know, all one of them, we neither of us advocate for a one-party state. It is absolutely. Can I speak for you here as well?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, you
yeah.
can.
We absolutely disagree completely with a one-party state, and we would never ever advocate for it. I strongly agree because I think it is a significant advantage, and to be honest, I think it's how places like China, with this pandemic, are able to crack down a lot quicker and do a lockdown a lot more efficiently. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing. I'm not saying we should have done it like China, but a significant advantage of that is that they are able to control the population, and therefore a lot easier. You can control people in China so much
Ooh,
easier.
can I jump in and disagree with that?
Okay, yeah,
Because as far as I can tell, the two nations that did the best quarantining, locking it down, and stopping the slowdown of spread of infection were China and South Korea. Now, yeah, China has a one-party state. To my knowledge, I think South Korea is democratic,
yes, I think it is.
although, yeah, wonderful. And I actually think if you look at this at face value, the reason they did so well at like quelling the outbreak was because they've been through this before.
Sure, okay.
Did Russia do that good with it?
Um, I don't know actually. I don't actually know the.
Well, I know that North Korea had zero outbreak.
Uh,
That's official numbers.
official, yeah, completely trustworthy numbers.
Yep. Oh, wait, so it's not this whole efficiency isn't a significant advantage if the intent behind the government is not for the will of the people and actually for a few at the top? Oh, look at that.
I obviously don't think that the advantages of a one party state outweigh, but I think when you have a situation where you've got a one party state, like um, think of Theresa May and trying to get the Brexit deal through a few years ago, or a year ago, or whatever. Like that was all because of a two-party system. We weren't able to get it through. Like, I'm not saying we shouldn't have a two-party system. We absolutely should, and I'm glad this stuff
Oh
is
no, I would
debated.
disagree. I don't think we should have a two-party
Oh,
system
sorry,
either.
sorry, more than one party. I mean, but but if China was leaving was leaving Europe or leaving the Asian economic agreement or whatever, it could do it in a heartbeat because they you would not have the same debate and back and forth that you do in countries like this. Like in theory and in practice, generally, I'm not saying for everything, generally the Chinese one-party system can just do it and just get it done. They don't have to have this constant debate. And I think the Brexit thing is a perfect example of something that we absolutely value and should have in this country. But it's just a fact that we're going to be slower if we've got, a government and loads of opposition. And yeah.
Well, I definitely agree. The more voices there are in a conversation, the more difficult it becomes to get an answer. You
Yeah.
know, that's why any producers who are listening to this show will know if you've got to get like a decision, you only put the people in there that you need approval on to get that decision to get it through, or else it's going to take for fucking ever.
Yeah.
Do you have any examples of a one-party state that wasn't just a total shit show?
Well, surely the argument is that there are none. Well, it depends what you mean by shit show. Like
I keep thinking of Cuba, but then I'm like, well, Cuba's not really a fair scenario because they were boarded up for God knows how long.
yeah, I don't know much about Cuba. I think that there's no one party state that I can think of that I think most people wouldn't be able to think of. Even people that are very left wing would struggle to think of any one party state in history that that is a more desirable. Because arguably you can't necessarily say that in some ways China isn't a it's not necessarily a shit show in some ways. It's awful when it comes to human rights. It's awful when it comes to freedom and the
all the important stuff. It's
yes,
pretty bad at, but you know what? It's great at making plastic.
well, it's also great at making money. The economy is ballooning, and it's set to overtake America as the biggest economy in the world. It already is.
So my friend, this is where I'm going to have to jump in because you've just crossed a very controversial area in the topic of China's legitimate GDP. Did you know? I'm pretty certain at this point that you can't, like, no one would use China's GDP figure in like an academic article because it's so disregarded as bullshit at this point. Like there's even been, I think there was even Chinese politicians that went on record and go, no, you don't use that as a legit figure.
Right. Well, I know it's top of the list in purchasing power parity.
I'm not saying they haven't had rapid growth and they haven't excelled crazily in the last 20, 30 years. Their growth has been huge, but they had a lot of area to grow.
Right. I was just making the point that they've they're when you judge them against human rights and just general morals and freedom, stuff like that, then
The core stuff.
they are awful. Well, there is other stuff
No, that's like, nah, for me that's like stuff that's core to being a human being.
Sure, but you can't just
I put
be
a premium on that.
sure, but you can't um, have human rights and freedom and just morals. You can't have them as a government and be effective if you forget about economics and the economy.
I mean, yeah,
and
you've got to look after
defense.
the economy as well, of course.
Exactly. So, even though obviously these are crucial and central to our decision making, my
But if
point,
you want to talk military, like USA is going to blow China out of the water.
sure, but I mean, China is a unbelievable military power. Like, and I think we need to be very precise if we're going to be dealing with China and something that is such a horrendous human rights abuser. We have to also recognize where it's strong, and I think the economy is very strong. If you compare it to the rest of the countries in the world, it is one of the superpowers. Um,
Oh, definitely. Like, that's probably the second most powerful nation on the planet.
Right. So in that way, what I'm just trying to say is, you can't just say that. I'm not saying you didn't say this, but I'm just saying China is not a shit show in general. It is a shit show morally, and all the stuff that we hold dear to our hearts. But when it comes to economic growth, military presence, um, and yeah, ability to get things done, that they want to get done, then they are fantastically powerful. So they've done that. They've done them well.
I mean that is true. But I mean, the vast majority of those areas, like the United States, got them beat.
Yeah. But just because United States have beaten them in those areas doesn't mean that it's not extremely powerful. Like,
Oh, right. Sorry, I was going back to the argument, but like, well, the United States doesn't have a one-party system. China does.
right, okay. Yeah, but then there's lots of comparisons, isn't there? Because then you could say that you know China is ahead of most other liberal democracies in those ways.
But yeah, that's just because it's got like a way bigger population. It's 1 billion people, remember?
Uh, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah,
You know, you look at. Yeah, I mean, I'm really. I know people that have lived in China and they say it's okay, but yeah, China's really not a place for me. I really, to me, that's still I still view some of their beliefs and what they do as archaic for sure.
yeah. And the one party state is definitely one of them. And just the general human rights abuses. Um, but I think the one party state, it's not just all disadvantages. I think despite me absolutely being 100% against the one party state in a country, I think it's important to accept the advantages of any system. Um,
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I suppose because it's just like a single like ring of power. It like I guess the way I'd put it is, yes, they could do the wrong stuff better.
yeah, more effectively.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, I guess we
so
could.
strongly disagree.
Cool. All right. Well,
Actually,
that's
no, you're right. You know what? You've convinced me. Your argument has convinced me. I'm gonna go soft degree.
okay. Cool.
I don't think it's a massive advantage because I actually think it takes away more than it gives in the long run. But I see the benefits.
Cool. All right. But I know that deep, like in terms of values and stuff like that, we're both both definitely on the same page.
Yeah, I would say so.
Um, cool. All right. Well, yeah, I know you've got to head off now, so we will head it up there. But yeah, thanks, Nick. It's been good again. I think we've what we've done is we wanted to get through a lot of questions, but we got so which I love, by the way, the BBC chat. Um,
Oh, me too. Yeah, and to be fair, to be clear, everyone, it's been a long time since I've listened to the BBC. I went off it for a long time. I used to be a huge fan of the BBC. Like man, there was a time where everything I watched was probably on the BBC. Yeah, you'll remember Little Britain, Mighty Boosh, Mock the Week. Man, oh, the Catherine Tate show, hot damn, man, those were the days. But yeah, it just fell flat for me.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'll if I see any, well, I see a lot of good stuff on the BBC, but if there's anything that I think you'll like, I'll send it across and maybe try and convert you back to the BBC.
Well, the problem is I can't watch it.
Oh, because you don't have a license.
Yeah, because I don't have a TV license, and I'm not going to pay a TV license for one show.
I'm guessing no one in the house that you're in has one either.
Well, I doubt it. I also own the house, so it'd be weird if they happened to own a TV license registered to it.
Fair enough. Cool, man. All right. Well, yeah. No, it's always a pleasure, mate.
Yeah, man, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much. It's always an enjoyable conversation. Sorry if I interrupted too much.
No, you didn't. No, all good. All right. I'll speak to you soon, man.
Take it easy, fella.